of the opposition, how the PPP scored a landslide victory in the local government elections, and how the local government elections were a referendum on this government, and that if they won the local government elections, ipso facto, the government is defeated and should resign. And you can imagine, I wasn't here to look at demeanor as lawyers do and see how power and the attraction of power could cause one to salivate. I wasn't here to see the pig with lipstick, but I heard it said that even the Prime Minister was defeated. Well, sir, this is a fatal obsession, as I said, with Nagamootoo and whim. And I want to say, sir, that Nagamootoo didn't lose. Whim didn't lose. I'm here. And wherever I am, there will be whim. You'll be in my heart to eternity. Cannot take that away. So whim hasn't lost. Reminds me of the story of the old man who is coming down to Georgetown for the first time. He's going to Water Street and must have been given some bad advice, as we had some bad advice here today, that told him that when he goes to Water Street, he'll have to fold up his pants and all of that because it's Water Street. I'm sure you heard that story. And here was this old man with the boots around his neck, and some Georgetown kid shouted at him, "Old man, like you lost." He said, Me the hey, Water Street last." Well, I'm here. And whim is here. And I'll tell you this, that in 2016, the APNU AFC fielded one constituency in whim. One. And it polled 31 votes. But in 2018, the AFC secured alone, running independently. And this is for the record. It secured 62 votes. 31 plus 31. It increased the vote over 2016 by 100%. And no amount of statistical juggling will change the reality that whim won. That whim has made an inroad into what had been a PPP ethnic fortress. I recall in the 60s I belonged there. I know its politics. When the PPP contested whim, other parties used to get 0. And for a little party to come and engage the PPP in this ethnic fortress and secure 100% increase in the vote, for me, it is a victory for all of Guyana. It is a victory against racism and tribal politics. So they say that in whim, this little party didn't even have the number of backers. You had to get 20 backers each. But I do know, as I said, the voodoo calculations, if you look at the number of votes, you will know it is more than 20. More than 20. But when you point a finger, they say, your thumb and 3 other fingers come back at you. And I look at Buxton Friendship. The PPP contested, and the headline was PPP won in Buxton. And you look at the fine print, Afterward, Buxton in 2 constituency, Buxton and Friendship, the first past the post, APNU got 1,336 votes, AFC 103, PPPC, a big donut, 0. There was another one, they got 3, and there was another one, they got 7. But in this one, where they had 20 backers signing up a list, they lost the constituencies, but they got the donut treatment, 0. And you turn around to claim this incredible victory, and you're trying to wipe out your own failure on somebody else's identity, which is the AFC, which explains a lot why the PPP had to withdraw from constituency Rushbrook, Maria Joanna, constituency 2 in Wakenham, because they found that there were a lot of fake names. Dead people were registered as candidates and as backers. And of course, it does not absolve the leader of the opposition when he said, if it is found to be fake, we'll withdraw from the list. The deed was done. The deed was done. But sir, I want to go a little more into this. There were allegations of manipulations and abuse of proxies and fake name in Mabaruma and Hosororo, which the Elections Commission is investigating. So that this big pomposity and exhibition that we saw here of victory is hiding the facts. And we have been silent for a while. I have not engaged this in the public. I've seen it over and over, all about Nagamootoo and his crushing defeat in Wim. But silence does not mean surrender. I have decided that to put into the records, and I hope the media will be able to give reproduction of these facts, that this party, AFC, and I must say, as Prime Minister, I'm very conscious that I'm dealing with a party advocacy almost, but it's a party defense. It's a political defense. It's a necessary defense because what has been said into these records will go down in history. That the AFC contested, put full slates in 4 municipalities, Georgetown, Linden, Maddy, and Mabaruma, and 3 NDCs, 3. Bloomfield, Wim, Mocha, Arcadia, and Diamond Grove. The votes cast, that I want you to pay careful attention to this, the votes cast in these municipalities and the 3 NDCs amounted to 43,295. 43,295. APNU polled 24,881, or 57.46% in these localities, municipalities, and NDCs. PPP, 13,106, or 30%, 30.27%, and the AFC, 4,964, or 11.4%. So this thing about landslide, you have to look at where the party was engaged, because we cannot allow this matter to go further than it has been taken. And when we know that there was a headline that the AFC overall vote was 4%. Well, in local government elections, in PR, national elections, the whole country is one constituency, and all your vote is calculated as against the total number of votes cast. In local government elections, you're accountable only for the areas in which you contested. And you cannot translate the number of votes of a political party as against national total and bring your 4%. That is why the same Starbuck News said that in 27 areas, they did a calculation that the AFC had 8,719 votes in 27 constituencies, even where you run an individual constituency, and the AFC polled 8%. So they now went a bar higher. It's not 4, it's 8 if you look at all the single constituencies. But if you look at where full lists were put up, the AFC came out 11.40, which was 1.4% more than what is estimated and bandied about as the 10% party. So where is the defeat? Where is this decimation of the party? It was being cleverly done to weaken the coalition, to show that a partner in the coalition has been decimated. It's part and parcel of the divisive campaign, the divide and rule campaign that I have been talking to this House and the nation about. And of course, I want to say this, that even if it were true that the Alliance for Change had 4% of the votes, it is enough. 4% is enough. It's like 100%. Now, in real political terms, it is enough to keep the pharaohs, Alibaba and the 40 thieves out. 4%. That's all you need. Don't worry the 10 and the 12 and the 15, 4%. And they know that, and that is why you have this bombast and boast about having won the elections convincingly. But if you transpose and use the same arguments they have used about putting the percentages against the nationalists, let us put the number of votes. Mr. Honorable Member, Mr. Colin Crowell, was talking about the number of votes in the elections, and the Honorable Leader of the Opposition said how they got 122,000 votes, and how much more they got than the AFC, how much more they got against the APNU. Well, I have the figures here. And when you cast the figures against the list of the 2015 general elections, you had 585,727 voters. And you look at the number of voters that they say they have in the local government elections that will give them a landslide victory in a future national elections, it came up to 20.8%. This big party that thinks it got the 2020 elections locked down in its pocket, when you look at its real vote as against the last election, it will get only 20%. If you calculate it on the basis of 71% of turnout in the elections of 2015, it will secure 29.4% and no more. So I want members of this Honorable House to know that you cannot fall victim to this propaganda of the omnipotence of the Pharaoh. Cannot, because the statistics here show that this party, which went out to tell people that this is a referendum on the government, if you vote for the PPP in the local government elections, the government will have to resign. It failed even that to motivate its supporter. And so you had the tragedy of the elections, of course, is on all houses, but more particularly 36 to 40% turnout does not motivate confidence in the opposition. It was a vote of no confidence in an opposition that tells its supporters to come out overwhelmingly to throw the government out. And so it's a failure from the point of view of mobilization. So this talk here about landslide is part of the propaganda, is part of the psychological warfare, the war of the flea, to pick at the coalition and hope that it will demotivate us, discourage us, and divide us. And so we must know the nature of the political beast we are dealing with. And so there might have been apathy among supporters of the government, who are many. But apathy is not acquiescence. Apathy is not giving in. And therefore, we are hoping that we will be able to turn the tide and to show the opposition that it has not been able to capture the imagination of the Guyanese people. And I'll tell you why it couldn't capture the imagination of the Guyanese people in the past, nor it will be in the future. Sir, I want to come back, and congratulations, Honorable John Adams, for securing the seat. Must be a very hot seat by now, judging from the length of the last presentation. I'm sorry I offer you no comfort. This 300.7 billion national budget has a special feature that appeals to the young people, the generation that will run this country. It's the ICT sector. We have heard Minister Catayus and the Honorable Finance Minister talking about the exciting days and years ahead of us when we'll bring Guyana into the digital age. And these allocations and the creation of the Info Hub and bringing young people in the high schools, wherever they are, the learning institution, into connectivity, e-commerce, e-health, e-postage, you name it, we're going to have it. But it's coming out of this budget. It couldn't be that bad. It couldn't be so negative that the honorable members who have all spoken here in the opposition feel that the budget has nothing to offer. And of course, there's money in the budget, and they recognize that the office of the Prime Minister has a Cinderella budget. We are very frugal. We don't ask for a lot of money, but we work properly, we work efficiently, and we produce results at low cost. And so we will continue with the support of this government, $908 million in all for all the public information sector, as well as the Office of the Prime Minister. We will continue the revolutionary policy of connecting with our indigenous peoples and our hinterland communities via television, radio, and various colorful publications such as these. I have taken the liberty, sir, because I want this House to see what is it that this ministry is doing at low cost. And so you have a sample. They're not the glossy, expensive magazines. Hinterland Highlights. You have a special hinterland highlight, the smiling Minister of Finance. Special for the budget, big plans for more hinterland development in Budget 2019. Then we have something for Linden. Linden Ledger. And it focuses. Minister of State, you look sharp there. Well, you knock him out. No, you look sharp. Knock him out. And you have Linden Ledger. It's for free distribution. You know why I'm doing this? I'm a newspaper man. Ink is in my blood. This is a business I know. So when you see the headline last week that there's going to be a lot of spin in the budget, you know they were referring to this bowler. You know that. We know that. So you have Essequibo Express. Rice exports jump up 43%. Mainstay pushes tourism. 1,000 access free health care at Study Hospital. Youths benefit for environmental workshop. Parika Stelling to get long overdue upgrade. That's Essequibo Express. You have now Rupununi Roundup. See that? Rupununi. Yes. Our president looks so relaxed with a baby, a child in his arms. When we have West Side Diary, Region 3, green light for new Demerara River Bridge. And you know that that is the bone in the throat of the silent green opposition chairs. They don't want this bridge. It links West Dem. The ethnic tribal politics wouldn't be served by a 4-lane bridge across the Demerara River. And so they're trying to kill this project by discrediting the minister and discrediting the feasibility. So there is West Side Story. And of course, this is a nice one, Barbie's Bulletin. See, Barbie's Bulletin. Region 5, successes hailed at RACE. And this one here, yes, Minister Amna Ali, you're smiling graciously in the front pages. And Minister Cummings. But these are the publications which tell the story. And I want to, because of what has been alleged, to water down the contribution of the Department of Public Information, to place on record my deepest appreciation for the work being done by this dedicated new staff, young, very aggressive, and very hardworking. They are developing capabilities every day, and they are very versatile. As you can see, in the publication of 7 monthly newspapers to keep citizens informed of how the taxes are being used to bring progress and development to the communities. In addition to the long-standing hinterland highlights, I show you the others that we have. And so we are hoping in the new year to have other newspapers in Region 1, 5, and 8, and to have a special edition for Georgetown. We're also sending inserts to newspapers in New York and Toronto to keep our Guyanese in the diaspora updated with developments in their homeland. The Department of Public Information produced a daily news program focusing on bringing news and information to the people about the business of government, not contrive negative stories seeking to cause gloom, division, and disharmony in our country. InfoHub, as you all know, has brought a breath of fresh air to Guyana's news and information services. It is broadcast daily on NCN and several privately owned stations, including E-Networks and Scar TV, which reach out to us and sought to broadcast this program as part of the licensing agreement to provide 60 minutes for public information in every 24-hour cycle. Guyanese can now access news and information from the DPI via newspapers, via television, online, via the website www.dpi.gov.gy, via social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the YouTube, and also via WhatsApp. I encourage all the opposition members, indeed all Guyanese people, to subscribe free by sending a message to 608-4111. 608-4111. Mr. Speaker, as I'm speaking now, what I say here and what everybody else had been saying here is being broadcast throughout the world, not only via the Parliament's website, but also via DPI on a very popular Facebook live stream. And unlike what an honorable member of the opposition interrupted the proceedings to allege, all presentations, all are being broadcast. All, and when I said all, including those by the opposition members. We have now fair and non-partisan coverage, unlike the information blackouts that transpired under the previous government. But even further, Mr. Speaker, not only is the DPI broadcasting this via Facebook to the world, but NCN is broadcasting live on Voice of Guyana, and we are being heard on seven regional radio stations right now across Guyana. Radio Mabaruma, Radio Madia, Radio Bartica, Radio Oriala, Radio Aishalton, Radio Letem, and of course, Radio Piomac. Hello to all of you in Radio Land now listening to the Prime Minister. And yet, still, Mr. Speaker, this broadcast is going even further via a combination of radio and the internet, as Radio Bartica and Radio Madia are broadcasting live online and can be accessed from anywhere in the world via the DPI website and the Radio Garden app on any smartphone. I wish to add, Mr. Speaker, that your humble servant now has found some extra time to go on Facebook every Wednesday at 1 p.m. to engage with the people here and abroad and to transmit ideas about what is taking place in our beloved country. And I know it is being listened to because we see hundreds of trolls from the PPP legions who would monitor what I say, every single word. And so I believe that today Guyana is a better place for having a public information network that is open, that is impartial, and that carries the news to all our people. Mr. Speaker, I tried to navigate what I had to say here today as calmly as I could. But when I hear, as an old political animal, that my budget, the budget of this APNU-AFC coalition that has labored for such a long time to find the right tune, to find the right balance, to find the right social content, is being accused in this House in a derisive way that we are only selling fluff and puff. Then it brings out the animal in me that I have to answer, because this is a new budget and the opposition tried to receive it with old politics, old politricks, old politics, came out and attacked the budget. Politics, P-O-L-Y, many, T-I-C-K-S, blood-sucking insects, came after this budget with ravenous intention to shred it, destroy it, and to denude the Guyanese people an opportunity to hear in this House the content of the budget and how it will impact their lives. So we see all these bad and negative speeches, so-called contribution. We notice the hostility, the anger, the hate, the racist innuendos, the lust for power, the obsession with taking back government at all costs. This was what the debate was being used for. It is not to make honest, sincere, positive and constructive contributions on how we could improve on the budget, perhaps not this year, but next year, or the year after next year, after the general elections of 2020. We are always welcoming ideas, but we have seen the opposition at its worst level. We have seen, we have heard the loud-mouthed, the noisy, insulting and disrespectful tone of the contributions. They huffed and puffed. They distorted facts and peddled untruths. They read old and cold speeches, each a fairy tale of what does not happen in Guyana.
Honourable Prime Minister, you'll be speaking for an hour and a half. There's an extension for another half an hour. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm very grateful to you. But also, sir, this debate gives us an opportunity to also judge, and for the Guyanese people to judge, that Guyana is not so bad after all. We have an opposition that does what it can do best, oppose. And the Guyanese people are taking note that this opposition should in fact remain in the opposition because it is doing a good job as opposition. As the old people say, one good term deserves another. A good term of opposition deserves another. So we have seen through that, and we know that we could cope with the opposition once we get the government business going. But for the Guyanese people, this is, as has been described by some of my colleagues, as a people's budget. It helps to move Guyana, even by a little bit, along the road to the good life. Even a little bit. It is helping to move us along this road. And for me, it is also a confidence budget. Every single dollar from the $300.7 billion budget that will be spent in our country on our people, promoting their welfare, providing security for them, defending our rights and protecting our sovereignty, build among our people confidence in their government, this APNU AFC government. The increase in the salaries for public servants, including teachers, the increase in 28 as a lump sum, tax-free Christmas bonus earns the confidence of the Guyanese people in this APNU AFC coalition government. The opposition MPs say that they will not vote for this $300.7 billion budget. They say that the budget is anti-working class and that the government is corrupt. And that is why they would not vote for the people to have $300.7 billion. They have forgotten, Mr. Speaker, that under the post-Jagan PPP regimes, children used to spell the word corruption with 3 P's. C-O-R-R-U-P-P-P-T-I-O-N. Got it? Spell it again. C-O-R-R-U-P-P-P-T-I-O-N. Conveniently and sadly, several opposition MPs, they bandied about Raman McCray, focused on Guyana's national budget. Mr. Ram is my friend, and I can tell you that his accounting firm for many years have been doing these budgets. They have not set out only to review critically this year's budget. They've shown previous budgets. Let's go back to 2011. The review by Christopher Ram and Robert McCray referred to the then PPP government as a mountain of corruption. They didn't go back there. They're talking about we are corrupt and we are anti-working class. Forgot that in 2011, the same Raman McCray, the report spoke to a mountain of corruption. They said, and I quote, Guyana cannot even make its integrity commission functional. Integrity was important and still is. We revived the Integrity Commission. We have a functioning Integrity Commission that is asking and going after the declaration of assets and incomes by public officials. Some government, some opposition didn't comply, but the question is that under the PPP, after the death of Bishop George, the Integrity Commission was headless for 9 years because they never wanted the Integrity Commission to probe the assets, to probe the income and the assets of officials, many of whom, presumably from the charges that have been leveled, were benefiting from disproportionate wealth, disproportionate to earnings. And that is what the Integrity Commission was set up to do, was to be able to ascertain that no one benefited from unjust enrichment. And of course, yes, you could say that. And so, it was 2011, and the leader of the opposition was in his last days as the president. And Rahman McQuay asked rhetorically what would be Jack Dale's legacy. And this is what they wrote, quote, "The presidency has witnessed corruption rising to heights that are as dramatic as the death of governance at its nadir." Oh, very poetic. "The public sector has effectively been subservient to the political directorate. The independence of the judiciary was under constant threat. Gap between rich and poor is widening into a chasm. Fear of victimization has silenced civil society, the business community, and independent professional." This is an indictment by the Rahman McQuay report of the 2011 government and in the president at that time. But no one chose to quote the legacy indictment. They came here and tried to brand us with the same indictment that they have been indicted, leveled against them. And Rahman McQuay said this, this is something to remember. They concluded that the executive presidency, and I put this in quote, was synonymous with dictatorship. Was synonymous with dictatorship. And we have here today all this condemnation of the government for being corrupt. And as one member has said during an earlier sit-in, quoting reference to equity, he who comes to equity comes with clean hand. And we didn't see those clean hands because this is where they came from. This is the genesis. But I also feel the decent-minded people, those with clean hands, also share the blame, because in 2011, the government was allowed to continue for another 3 years. I think that, yes, this was the Ramatar, not the Jack Dave. They were commenting on the legacy, 2011. The combined opposition, we were over there. APNU, AFC, we had the majority of seats in this house. And we did not use it earlier to exorcise the ghost, the phantom regime that had haunted the people, and we allowed it to go on for another 3 years. They have brought discredit and shame to our country, as evidenced by the reports that we have seen. And the damage that they have done to our country is irreversible. That is why they could today stand up and say what they said. But we came to the 2014 period when judgment had to be passed, and they brought another budget to this house. And on the 31st of March 2014, Rahman McQuay in their focus, they pronounce the budget dead on arrival. In quote, dead on arrival. They reported highlighted on its cover a dried up Amalia Falls with a caption, dry stone. Dry stone. Maybe they also found no stone elsewhere. But dry stone. They exposed the sleaze over that project, the job for the boys' contracts on a road to nowhere. And that project still stinks. Flipped. And the road flopped. And the 2014 budget was said to be presented as against a backdrop of Guyana experiences unusually cold relationship with the diplomatic community for languishing as a very corrupt country in Transparency International Corruption Perception Index. Pervasive corruption. And we have these people with the hands in the cookie jar coming here and lecturing us about corruption. And on page 18 of the review, Raman McRae says, ministers have taken statutory abuse and financial impropriety to a new height. Statutory abuse, abuse of the law. Monies were being spent in violation of the provision of the Constitution and the Financial Management and Accountability Law, and in abuse and in defiance of the House.
That's right.
$6 billion had been spent. And then Comrade Ramjatan, I recall, went to the Commissioner of Police, the honorable member, the Honorable Vice President, Comrade Ramjatan, then leader of the AFC, went to the Commissioner of Police to inquire whether criminal charges should be brought against the Minister of Finance. It was then that we had seen a revolutionary situation developing, that we should move from the removal of a minister to the removal of the whole corrupt government. It was corruption that brought it down. So, sir, we know it is several years after these abuses took place, and as the learned Attorney General told the House today, when he exhibited paper clippings of those who are before the courts, I'm sure, sir, the justice may be slow, but justice will be done. Amen.
Yeah.
But there sprung another, like Mandrake, another rabbit from the hat. And just in case the arguments failed that this budget was fluff and puff, they said, you have not done enough.
Yeah, totally.
Show us what you have done in 3 years. And they were comparing us to their 23 years of unbroken power. I was part of that government. And I can tell you, when they say that the last 3-4 years, if they want to make it the 5th year, that we spent $1 trillion of public money and had nothing to show for it, I have done the calculation of 22 years of the PPP government, and I came out with the figure that they had spent $2,127,000,000,000.
What?
2,127,680,000,000, etc. Got a couple thousand inside. But not looking at the thousand here now, but trillion.
Deal with the trillion.
If you look at the exchange rate then, the lower exchange rate with a smaller budget, this possibly could be 2 into 4 into $6 trillion. And you mention these numbers, Mr. Speaker, I don't blame the Guyanese people for seeing Ning Ning. Some people say they get Basidi. Seeing all these knots. It's a lot of knots. Can't imagine that any government can spend that huge sum of money. And then I heard one of the overzealous Stalinists leveling accusation against the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Minister of Finance, that the budget he has brought here was incapable of buying dog food. Call it a dog food budget. How insulting. But we want to know what had happened to the 6 billion, trillion, which they had spent, and which they're saying that we should compare ourselves, our 3 years, our 1 trillion, we should compare our record with theirs. And they're always saying that we must match their performance, and that all the projects that were done under the PPP administration were projects that belonged to them. They claim ownership. And I hear a little boy in women said, is what? Is that my mama money? They think that they own the money, having been elected to government, that it is their money, it is their school, it is their hospital, their bridge, their road. And the little boy wasn't wrong. It's not a mama man money, it's the taxpayers' money. It's the people's money. And a government is only an agent to ensure that it is spent wisely, that there is financial prudence in spending people's money, and that you get results for what is spent. So I want to shatter this comparison that we were given, that we couldn't compare, and that we are the corrupt ones. And I say here that we cannot allow those who have allowed this country, had made this country suffer from external sanctions, and for people being put on benches in our own CARICOM countries, being treated as mendicants and suitcase traders, that we cannot allow them to parade themselves as saints and saviors. And we cannot at the same time allow them to go back to have another chance to feed at the trough. Guyanese people cannot allow this to happen, that they are salivating after the oil wealth, and they begin to see all the tricks to the bag, that they could fool the Guyanese people with nice fluffy talks, nice figures being paraded as if suddenly they're expert in running governments. Well, experts in running governments don't find themselves in opposition. Experts in running governments first protect themselves in government and don't open themselves to the kind of sleaze that would have brought them down when the people voted on May 11, 2015. And I say this, having heard some other contributions there, that not even no pitiful political priest is going to be able to baptize this slush that we inherited in Guyana and turn it into gold. None can baptize it and convert it into gold. And even I say that all the waters of the Berbice River, all the waters of the Demerara River, all the waters of the Mighty Essequibo cannot cleanse the Augean stable which we have inherited from the PPP. We are still grappling with the shadows of those corrupt times and the mismanagement and the inefficiency and the extravaganza and the waste. I have looked at the records of the leader of the opposition when he was president, the Honorable Bar Jagdeo. And I have seen he made 70-something trips overseas. And I have seen the amount of money that was spent on those trips where he took what Guyanese
Barrier.
would call, yes, Kamraj, he took the entire barriat with him as if he was going to a wedding ceremony. And not only monies for airfares and accommodation, non-refundable contingencies amount to $360,000 US dollars. 1,000. Those trips cost the taxpayers $147 million. And I think when the honorable member, Volo Lawrence, was speaking the other day to the issue of how much money had been used for the health treatment overseas of members of the former regime, she had been very polite in saying 100 million. When the list is published, you would see the excesses that had been committed for cosmetic treatment and health decorations and alterations and fertility treatment and the whole works in excess of 500 million. So Minister Lawrence had been very kind, and I think that you're a very generous and very compassionate person. But sir, we have to move on. And I can say today that I have walked those 23 years to which I referred just now, and I've been part of for a time, plus 28 years before that, 28 years before that. And where I'm standing today is like being on a mountaintop. I can say that Guyana has never been safer, more secure, stable, and strong than she is today. Thanks to the APNU, AFC coalition government. Every one of our budgets has taken us to a better place.
That's correct.
And I want to offer a bouquet to the budget boy, the Honorable Winston, Da Costa Jordan, and his hard-working, dedicated team who have labored. Not a bad comparison. I saw movies and cartoons, and Santa would in the factory, to bring good joys to our folks, particularly senior citizens like myself. Thank you very much. And look forward for a I didn't refer to the speaker, but we are all grateful, always grateful for small mercies. And so, this budget, in layman's term, in the language of the ordinary people, in the language of the grassroots, the brethren and the sistrens in the villages, not only gave us bread, it gave us a little butter on the bread. And we are grateful. Not butter. A little cheese next time. But butter will do for now. The good life can be realized through the efforts of the Guyana Revenue Authority and the partnership of business and labor. As regards the business and labor sector, I say, Mr. Speaker, that we have to dialogue and to find better ways of working together. But where Guyana is today is not only the result of big budgets. We are here also because of political will. We have built a new architecture of governance that is built on a stable, multi-party parliamentary democracy. We have an independent judiciary. We have open governance. We have a free press. And we have, in the making, the building of a professional public service. But I can say this, is that no institution of democracy has been spared the opposition's scorn and condemnation. They say that monies are wasted in food, as I said before, and the House does not meet regularly. But I can say this to you today, that this Parliament, this 11th Parliament, just in its midterm of this government, has done well. And I have to defend this edifice of a parliamentary democracy and to show figures that in The 6th Parliament, 1992 to 1997, there were 105 sit-ins. In the 7th Parliament, 1998 to 2001, 62 sit-ins. Mr. Jagdeo was then president. 8 sit-ins, 126. 9 sit-in, 166. The 10th sit-in, 2012 to 2014, 88 sit-ins. And then Mr. Ramotar, President Ramotar, prorogued the House. He closed down this Parliament. He shut it down. The only other time that had happened was in 1953, when the British invaded this country, landed troops, and they suspended the Parliament. This was the first time we ever heard the word prorogue again since 1953. But it was the PPP that did that, inflicted that wound on our democracy. But from June 11, 2015 to today, we are meeting here for 105 times. 105 times. And they said that we are shutting down Parliament and we are going for recess and we are going on holiday, and they did everything to besmirch the character of this House and the integrity of this institution. And even they have started to say that ministers are going on recesses and leave, but the record will show that this government, this APNU-AFC government, has been hard and consistent at work for the Guyanese people. Between 2011 to 2015, Cabinet met 212 times. In 4.5 years, 212 times. Between 2015 to 2018, this is September gone, we met 215 times with subcommittees and ministerial conferences in just over 3 years. 4.5 years, 212 times. This is Cabinet. And in 3 years, 215. We beat them again. We beat them again. And that's why we'll continue to say, thoroughbreds don't cry, they run and die. And this government, we don't cry. We listen to the attacks. We take the blows. But we keep fighting and we keep moving forward. That is the way forward. And today, sir, we can say to the whole world with pride, there are no death squads, no phantom squads, no extrajudicial killings, no partnership with the drug cartels, no assassination of political activists. We can tell the world that. There are no threats against journalists. Feces have not been thrown against any journalists under our watch, this government. No labels had been made against journalists. We had a little dispute now and then, but no one has been called a Karen Crow. Quarantine people say Chan Crow. We don't insult journalists. And so I believe that we also here on this side, I look around and hope I'm right. I haven't seen anyone here who have lost their visa to the United States of America. No government official. No government official. So, sir, we believe that we have in Guyana a new democracy. And we have a new democracy with a content. And I just want to summarize because I know my time is running, but I can just give you, they said easy lesson good for dunce. I'm addressing the opposition, that even if they had touched on these things, I would have been satisfied today that they have come to grapple with a serious situation in this House of how we are dealing with the many problems of the Guyanese people and how we are trying to find solutions to these problems, and that we have to work together to do that, not to bring down, like a crabs in a barrel, to bring down those who are trying to step forward. We have little things like the A's in terms of children going to school. His Excellency President Granger has articulated a policy of access, attendance, and achievements. And every effort, even setting up a commission of inquiry, declaring a state of emergency in the education system when our mathematics result fell way below 50, going down to 30%. And today we have seen that we are ensuring that children have access to school, that they attend, and that they can boast of the achievements we have seen in recent times. Then the 3 A's have been complemented with 4 B's. From the President's own gifts and donations, not personal. We have buses, boats, bicycle boots, and we can add breakfast and books. Not any breakfast, a hot meal. And then I went to an exhibition and a conference by Minister Honorable Gaskin, Dominique Gaskin, and I heard young people sitting there talking about youth entrepreneurship, and I heard rolled out the 5 C's program of accessing, encouraging young people to enter into the world of commerce, to form companies, to subject themselves to counseling from people who know business, and they get a cash grant to start up the business of 50,000 and more. And then they're taught how to enter into contracts. All for young people. I was there. And I've seen how many of them reported that they have opened little businesses, and here we have an allegation that no employment is being found. It's an insult to our young people who are filled of entrepreneurship, who have enthusiasm and energy and talent and creativity, and they want to move forward and they want to be self-employed and self-sustainable, and they are being accused that there is no opportunity and support for them. And of course, at the larger level, we introduced the 6 Ds. So you have A, B, C, Ds, that we ensure the defense of our country. We guarantee our democracy. We implement devolution of authority from central government to the municipalities, to the regions, to the NDCs. We promote development of the infrastructures so that all can benefit. And we have diversification in agriculture to be able to supplement traditional crops with other crops. And of course, we have the 6th D, which is the Guyana Dream. The Guyana Dream for the good life. And so today, sir, it is with great honor and a privilege for me to endorse this 300.7 billion 2019 budget, and to congratulate all those who work towards its realization. And I hope, sir, that we can extract the light out of this budget, and that we can all together, the Guyanese people, can help us to dispel the despair and the doom and the gloom that the opposition wanted to envelope this budget in, and that we can see the positive side of the content of the budget, this people's budget, this budget of confidence in governance, and that we can move forward and make Guyana not only a better place, but we can realize the good life for all of our people. I ask for the unanimous, well, of course, you will not have the unanimous, but for the approval of the budget in this honorable House. Thank you.